Guys, we're your Tuesday show. Every Tuesday of the NBA season, we're going to be here. We're going to be bringing you content. Watch the games and come check us out. Leave a comment. Don't watch the games. If you're not watching the Cavs games, I really don't blame you for the past couple of years, but we're 7-4. It's time to start trying
Give them
to
a
catch.
chance.
It's time to start to try to catch some of these games. You won't be disappointed. It's fun basketball atmosphere. Yo, welcome back out to the Cleveland Pulse YouTube channel. It is your weekly Cavs Encapsulated video. This is the third installment of your favorite trio here on the Cleveland Pulse, talking about Cleveland Cavaliers basketball. Wow, what a week it was. What a upcoming week it will be. And how many moving parts are we going to talk about in this episode? Just for a little preview here, we have Jarrett Allen winning the Eastern Conference Player of the Week award. Very well deserved. Unfortunately, we have some bad news with a Collin Sexton meniscus tear and an indefinite return timetable provided by the Cleveland Cavaliers medical staff and the Cleveland Clinic. And with that being said, some good news perhaps on the horizon with a report coming out today that is believed that Isaac Okoro will be ready for the Wednesday game against the Washington Wizards. But since we last left you guys, we were 4-4 in the last episode. Since then, 3-0, 3-point win over the Trailblazers, 1-point win over the Raptors, and another signature victory in Madison Square Garden, beating the Knicks 126-109. Justin, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Today's been a great weekend, been a great time to be a Cleveland fan, but the Cavaliers just fantastic through those three games that we watched. Obviously, we'll have some comments about that moving to 7-4. It's huge. I'm very happy to be here. Very happy to have Logan with us again, and I'm doing great.
Logan, me and Justin are always excited for your notes. So, what's at the top of the ticket for you regarding this Collin Sexton injury? I know we want to get into that right away. We've had some thoughts, off camera about this, but I want to hear you verbalize that injury right at the top here.
First off, Jeff, you brought up notes.
The kid's prepared.
I make a
We're
good
back in class.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, exactly. My high school taught me well. I always compare like good and bad of all three games, and I kind of list, usually the list is about the same number of lines, but I just have it filled with good, maybe half a page of like really nitpicky bads, and then my overall thoughts at the bottom. But yeah, one overall thoughts at the bottom is, where do we go minus Collin Sexton? Well, here's the good news. We've seen the emergence of Dylan Windler. We've seen Cedi Osman step in and really provide some good minutes. We will be getting Isaac Okoro back, and Ricky Rubio is playing at another level this year. So we have plenty of depth, but I do get a little bit nervous because one of those things where everything's going so well. I mean, we've seen it with the Cleveland Browns alone. Injuries can totally derail anything you're talking about before a season, how a season's going. One injury and your whole season can be, turned on its head. So it's interesting because now the Cavs don't have that head down, go get bucket kind of scorer. They have great passing, which usually can win you a good amount of games. But, when you lose those games that are 7-8 points or even, a bucket or two, that's when you're going to miss Collin Sexton the most. So it's for me, a 3-0 week, but certainly feeling the effects of the Collin Sexton losses.
Yeah. With that, I think I went for a minute-long intro, and I totally forgot about the Ricky Rubio performance in Madison Square Garden, putting up nearly 40. So, we understand that these are long videos, and if you only have a certain, 5 or 10 minutes out of your day, the timestamps are always listed in the description. If you want to hear us talk about just individual topics, you could hyperlink right to where you want to start listening to and right where you want to stop, just to throw that out there before we go any further. Justin, this team has seen a lot of adversity so far. I think, between the COVID protocols, I believe that Kevin Love might be eligible after the Wizards game. I heard somebody say today that it's a 10-day minimum for COVID protocol, regardless of, status, close contact, whatever it may be. So with this news arising that Isaac Okoro may be coming back with Collin Sexton leaving, how do you think that plays into the dynamic of JB Bickerstaff's coaching tendencies?
Well, JB's had a tough go at it. I mean, within 11 games, I mean, he's dealt with injuries all over the lineup. Obviously, this is going to be our second starter going out for an extended period of time. Markkanen hopefully going to come back soon. But yeah, it's tough. That Ricky Rubio signing, even though the money was very expensive, looks phenomenal now, especially after that game in New York. But it's unfortunate because, Jeff, you and I were talking about it earlier that, Collin Sexton looked to have been playing some of his best ball. And that's in the sense that, the team's winning. He's putting up good numbers. He's doing good things on the court. I did have, and, I don't want to hit negatives on, someone that is injured, has gotten a huge injury. But, there was points in that Toronto Raptors game that we'll get to that, made me want to pull my hair out. But, tough to see Sexton go out, but we have had a little bit of discussions about potential blessings in disguise. Getting Isaac Okoro back, we talked about, I believe, in the first Cavs Encapsulated, rotations and figuring out a starting lineup and figuring out rotations with this particular group of guys. And obviously we don't know yet for sure, but hopefully Okoro will slot into where Sexton was, and we can kind of get into a groove of him there and see what we can make of that situation. So it's definitely a tough blow, especially to our depth as of this point, but something that JB is going to have to coach through.
A lot of great points there for sure. Ricky Rubio at the top of your talking point, being totally worth the money, has been a huge and pleasant surprise. It seems like he really loves playing for the Cleveland Cavaliers. He has good chemistry with other individuals on the court. And even when he scores, upwards of 30 plus points, he still, I feel like, looks to pass first. Yeah. But with this Isaac Okoro injury, I am nervous that I'm hoping that they've kept him out maybe longer than he actually needed to be, and we're going to be able to start him on Wednesday if that's the case against the Wizards, because with a hamstring injury, you just never know. It seems like maybe you might try to ease him back into the rotation coming off the bench, which right now that doesn't really seem to be possible. But at least this is from my point of view. I'll let Logan comment on it. I think the worst thing that JB could do, unless Okoro is actually unavailable tomorrow, is start Garland and Rubio. Am I wrong about that, Logan?
No, I don't think you're wrong about that. I think those two work together for a closing lineup. We saw it at New York. The final five was Garland, Rubio, Osman, and Tower City, Allen, and Mobley. So it's definitely, I like their effectiveness as the game is into its flow. But I think when the ball's tipped up, I don't like having the two true point guards in your backcourt. And Rubio shooting three well, don't get me wrong, but I don't think I'm going to say this, but he did make some off the dribble threes that were really, really tough. But sometimes you're just having that kind of day. I don't think he fits with Garland in a starting rotation, if that makes sense. And, that's not to hinder the ability of both guys. And they do play well together. I just think it's when the game gets going, that's what you have to do. It could be a risk. I mean, I haven't really loved Dean Wade in the starting lineup. I do like it simply because our bench is stronger. But you want to throw Dylan Windler in there, give him a look. I mean, I don't know, see what he can do. In first Portland, 13 points on 3 of 3 from deep. Against New York, had another 9, hit a couple of triples. I mean, just getting a shooter out there who can overall play some good team defense, maybe not the best one-on-one defender, but team defense, I think that'd be an interesting option to try at too. But I really don't like the idea of Rubio and Garland mainly. And I think one of you guys will probably touch on this. Got to have a guy that's going to just control that second unit and run it like a quarterback does.
Yeah. The second unit is the one coming into question here. I really do think that the first unit can sustain these injuries, but you see it where, 3 or 4 of our starters, go to the bench and we give up an 8 or 10 point lead. I saw it in the Knicks game a couple of times, but I think through 11 games, for the most part, that if you've watched the majority of them, and you're a Cavs fan, you can agree that the point of emphasis that is still lacking for this team outside of Darius Garland, I think, which that's why I'm coming back to Justin here, is that we don't really have a guy who could create his own shot on the 3-point line. I think Dylan Windler could, but everybody else, we haven't seen it from him, but everybody else, Chetty, he's a spot up shooter. I think Laurie's even a spot up shooter, even though he hasn't been out there. I think that Evan Mobley is the definition of a rookie spot up shooter. If the defense just chases some of these guys off the line that we have, I think that it's tough. It's going to be tough for us to make 3-point shots. Rubio's the same way. But I think Darius Garland could be that true bright point, and he can continue to shine and even play a more sustained role. We saw it last year with roles reverse. Garland was hurt, injured for an extended period of time, and Collin Sexton, goes up and averages, 24 points a game. But switching gears over to, along with Garland, Jarrett Allen named the Eastern Conference Player of the Week. Justin, the chemistry between those two, Garland and Jarrett Allen, I think that's what Kobe Altman thought that Garland and Andre Drummond was going to be, but now we're just seeing it in full effects. What is your favorite part about watching those two play together?
Well, it's just phenomenal to, and there's a lot of talking points that we've gone through and we haven't even gotten into these games yet, but
we're getting there next.
Garland has, we've seen that step back ability for him to shoot, but you said it with him and Rubio, Logan, that, those two are pass first guys. You'll see them take the ball in and, look to pass to the big guys. But Jared Allen and Garland and even Mobley, for that fact, I mean, all three of those guys, they play together like they're family, and the way that like the ball is just 90% of the time, if all three of them are on the court, it's between those three who's going to score. And the looks that they give each other, Jeff and I were watching highlights together and stuff, and we saw Mobley make a pass to Allen that, rookies just don't do. And It's phenomenal that the chemistry is, they had to get it together last year. Obviously things weren't great because of the end of that year. Allen was brought in, but, just how this chemistry has built between the three of them in particular has been phenomenal. And, I think going back to Jeff's point about, not having any shot creators, you don't really need shot creators when you got guys like Garland who, get guys open and get them the easy buckets. So it's been phenomenal to watch, and it's the point that, Jeff gave it to me because he knows Garland's my guy. If all-star numbers weren't a thing and, you went off of how, crucial players actually were to their teams, like how the MVP award should be, Garland would be, in that top three, but in my mind, number one, just for what he does in terms of the efficiency when he's on the floor. So it's been great to see, and it's just been really fun, honestly.
And you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think with Sexton out, personally, I'd like to see Garland go from 10 to 15 shots a game to 15 to 20 shots a game. Yeah. Now, you don't want to also, what's the word? I can't think of it. You don't want to hinder his ability to pass, though. You don't want him to all of a sudden only average 3 or 4 assists, because as the leading guard, you're expecting to see 5, 6, 7 plus from your starter. Sorry, my dog's in the background playing with his bull. Y'all hear that crowd right now. Seems to love to just roll it around. But yeah, I think Garland, that's kind of the next step in his evolution, is becoming the guy who's really not afraid to shoot. We've seen it this year. He's a lot less passive than he once was. He's confident in his 3-point ability. He's confident in what he's doing on the court and how he can create. And like you said, Justin, he is just insanely valuable for this team. And I think his value is going to be tested while Sexton's gone.
Well, look at Rubio last night. The man had a double-double, 37 points. I don't know that we'll ever get a 3-point, right,
8 and 9.
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever get that kind of night again out of any one player, but it is possible. It's absolutely possible for Garland to take more shots and get that kind of, role going on. My thing with the whole Collin Sexton thing, and I don't want to harper on this too long, but, with Sexton, the best asset that he had to himself was that he wasn't afraid to take control of the ball and go get quick buckets. And that's, something that I think he's been fantastic at. And I think that's his, most redeeming quality. But like you said, Logan, you don't want to have Garland force that kind of mentality and, take away from what he's been doing so well.
I think that everyone's shots are just going to increase. I mean, you see it in the Knicks game, Evan Mobley, 11 for 15 on 26 points. I think he's another person who's probably going to get the ball in his hands more, which is deserved and rightfully so. And Justin, even going back to Darius Garland being an all-star candidate, I think that when Cavs fans get excited, I don't know, the voting might be out in full force for him. We're gonna do a full all-star episode. That's a guarantee. We're going to do who should be starting versus who is starting. So.
In Cleveland, people. In Cleveland. Right. I can't believe it.
It is in Cleveland.
Gotta throw
forgot about that.
You have to put someone from the home team on the all-star ballot. But I mean, Jared Allen's working his way onto that ballot for sure.
Yes.
Evan Mobley might be working his way onto that ballot in the, he'll be in the rookie game for sure. But three guys that have just looked fantastic.
While you guys are on the topic of Evan Mobley, I was listening to Bill Simmons' podcast. I actually loved the comparison he had because I think a lot of the comparisons I've been hearing for Evan Mobley are Anthony Davis, maybe Joel Embiid defensively. What I'm noticing and what Bill Simmons pointed out, take away the tenacity, take away the energy, take away this monster personality that Kevin Garnett is. Evan Mobley is very similar to him. And I liked what he said. It's because he makes it look so easy getting to his spots, getting his shots off. He's money from anywhere from 12 to 18 feet out. He's good at picking and rolling, and he doesn't need to take it from the perimeter and dribble around like an Anthony Davis does, right? Evan Mobley is more about picking and rolling, getting that spot at the high post, maybe getting a little drive, a little dump off feed, maybe a soft touch. He's very diverse in that regard. He's not going to be the animal that Kevin Garnett is when it comes to screaming and yelling, hollering at the fans of the opposing team. But he certainly is going to get the job done just like KG did so many years ago.
Yeah, that's a great comparison. I think that he's even further along probably when Kevin Garnett was a rookie, just
exactly
because
what Bill Simmons said.
Even if he shoots 20% from three, it's like you have to go out there and guard him. Right. So if you take a big man away from the middle or even a four away from the middle and Jared Allen's out there, I mean, I think that's a pretty good segue into the first game that we have since with our last episode, which was Wednesday, November 3rd, the 3-point victory against the Trailblazers at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. You see it right on the stat sheet. Evan Mobley, 40 minutes. Jared Allen, 40 minutes. If that is an exclusive tandem, teams, there might not even be two bigs in the Eastern, an all-star team of bigs might not be able to guard that as far as, 2 7-footers. Don't even take into account Lauri Markkanen is out there. So If you're trying to match up playing this traditional modern form of basketball where you just have a bunch of guards and a bunch of, smaller players who could all shoot, it's a nightmare for other teams. I think, believe it or not, which I was a little bit surprised about, I think Portland actually did a decent job. I mean, I know Nurkic is decent, and of course, Damian Lillard plays his best game of the year against us with 26 points, but it didn't even really seem like he was a huge factor. And it's good to see the Cavs winning close games just in general. A lot of games that me and Justin talk about all the time that in previous years we would have rolled over and died.
Yeah, I mean, Lillard scored 26 points, but he scored on 27 shots. And that's the difference, 10 of 27. I mean, they made him work for every point he had. We were worried about our 7-footers and not be able to shoot the ball and then losing dog. Don't even start with me, Finn. Losing, Sexton and guys that can really shoot the ball. We shot 15 of 30 from deep in that game. Against New York, which we'll get to later, we shot 19 of 35 from deep. I mean, there is a lot to be said about how the Cavaliers have adjusted as far as still being able to find a good perimeter shot. They did it against Portland. Once again, guys, let them know. You can say it, hashtag let them know all day long. My hashtag is do not fold. And I think through all these games in this season, they have won a ton of nail biters. They've had 10-point leads going to the fourth and had to eke out a win. Fourth quarter against Portland, they showed that little run. McCollum hits the in-transition triple to make it a 1-point game with like 9 minutes to go, and you're thinking, here we go. They didn't even hesitate out of a timeout. Put that game away. You had good players all around. You had guys step up. I mean, overall, just an excellent win against a good Portland team.
I think that even just shows the growth of how much this team has, taken a step in the right direction. Even if you go back to the first game of the year, Memphis, we took 38 threes and we only made 14 of them. So that's only a 36% clip, but I mean, almost 40 threes. We know that's not our identity, but I think that it serves the purpose in some games. It could be our identity. 15 of 30, like Logan said, that was a big stat that I have also been looking at from that game, 50%. And Portland chucks up more and hits them at a smaller percentage. So that's an all around good job right there. It's good to get wins at home. I think that's going to be important because we've really shown how good we could play on the road so far, which has been impressive. But Justin, anything that stood out to you as far as the Trailblazers?
I mean, just talking about playing traditional basketball with these two bigs, I want to recall back to a time where the New Orleans Pelicans had DeMarcus Cousins and Anthony Davis. And I believe the year that team went to the playoffs, I think they gave Golden State a little bit of trouble as the 8th seed. Obviously, they didn't have the kind of guys that we do around them with Garland and, all of our 3-point shooters coming off the bench and Ricky Rubio and all this and that. But, I mean, it's just a tough team to play against with, guys and this is the biggest if you got the guys like Windler and Osman and Love and Rubio coming off the bench and being able to hit those threes like they do. But if they don't, we can rely on Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, and others to get us those efficient buckets. I think that's the biggest thing that needs to be talked about. Is just the efficiency that comes out of this team. And Logan made a point about it with the timeouts. We've been coming out of timeouts and playing very good basketball. Teams will go on runs. Biggerstaff, I think, has been very good with calling his timeouts and actually drawing up plays for that, right away basket and everything. And this team is a team. It's really not a Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum type team where, those two, if they don't play, lights out, they're going to lose their games. And if it's Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, if they don't shoot lights out, they're probably going to lose. It's just really great to have that kind of team aspect and efficiency from the Cavs this year.
I mean, the only bad you can really nitpick at is 17 turnovers to 31 points. I mean, that can hurt you down the road, absolutely. But Justin, I want to go back to your point about New Orleans Pelicans in that year. It's actually a really good comparison. You're talking about you have your two dominant bigs. Giroux is kind of like your Sexton or Garland. And then they had Rondo off the bench, who was their Rubio. I mean, I think that's a perfect comparison. When you look at that starting lineup, yes, you do have two established all-stars. I think Cousins is starting to fall off a little bit, maybe. I don't know how well they actually work together, to be honest with you, because Cousins got hurt halfway through that season. They still made the playoffs. But that overall, just like looking at the way they put those two pieces in, I don't think anybody was really giving them a shot against Golden State in that first round. And they made some noise. So I think that's the kind of team this Cavs can be. They're going to be undervalued just about every game you look at them. No matter how an opposing coach going into a game looks at them and says, yes, guys, these guys are different this year. They're not an easy win in our schedule. It is so hard to prep for this Cavaliers team. That's what makes them special. This is a different ball club than anyone has seen probably in the last, 5 years of the NBA. In an NBA that wants to go small and shoot, we're going tall and dominate the paint. I mean, it's just an absolute masterful job. We give Kobe Altman a lot of crap. He got the draft pick right. He brought in Jared Allen. And those two guys are a big reason for our identity now. I told you, back when we're looking at drafting Evan Mobley, I said, the Cavs lack an identity right now. And maybe if they make a move, pick the right guy, they would find one, and they certainly have. I don't know what that has to do with the Portland game. That's just me going on my little tangent.
I think the identity is a big thing. I totally agree, and we'll piggyback off of what Logan said about that Pelicans comparison. Very good point. And I think that it could even be, they're only 11 games in. They've only played 11 games together. So just imagine, post All-Star break, what type of, how they're going to figure each other out and how they're going to play in tandem together, Mobley and Jarrett Allen on the court together with sustained experience. Moving on to talk about an experience. I'm going to keep Justin fired up here because I'm going to come out and say it. Very sadly, I did not watch 1 minute of this Raptors game. I understand I missed the best game of the year. Roast me in the comments, but I have seen highlights. In the last 90 seconds of basketball, Justin has thousands of thoughts about. So I'm going to start with him.
Yeah, this is a tough game. Through 4 quarters, you're in, losing position, don't have a lead at any point throughout this entire game. Whenever we seem to go on a run, the Raptors just have our number. They go back and forth. They're up the entire game, and it's more like the last 24.8 seconds of this game that really gets my blood pumping, because we did talk about Ricky Rubio being more of a closer. In these 2 games that we've talked about, in the Raptors game and the Portland game, he actually takes a back seat because he's not playing his best ball. He's not scoring a lot, and he's not playing too hot. And obviously that changes right after that game. But the lineup at the end of this game is Collin, Sexton, Darius Garland, Cedi Osman, Jared Allen, and Evan Mobley. Well, the problem I have with this lineup and how they went about their last 3 possessions that they got were both one first pass to Collin Sexton. Collin Sexton dribbles wildly, somehow loses the ball, but it goes off a Toronto Raptors player. We get the ball back. So we inbound it, and you watch this replay, really trying to get the ball to Collin Sexton. Collin gets it again, super aggressive, goes into the paint, jumps up with the ball, doesn't shoot it. I don't believe he shoots it.
No man's land.
Yeah, does not shoot it, comes down, dribbles, should have been a double dribble. Somehow we get a jump ball out of this. Well, the good part about this is that Sexton's the one that has to jump. He can't get the ball if he's the one jumping. So greatness happens. I don't hate him. The man just really tried to give away a game that we won, but at the time we were losing. And so, he jump balls, get the ball to Garland, the guy that makes things happen on this team as of right now, as the, point guard, as the leader, gets the ball to Garland. Garland does his thing, goes in, drives, gets the foul. I think he was looking to pass it off to Mobley, but he's getting whacked by 3 different guys, draws the foul, hits the clutch free throws. That's game over. But I don't want to speak ill of Collin Sexton, but I think the one thing that he does best is generate quick points off of droughts when we're not scoring at all and we're having trouble. He's the one that you go to. You're not going to go to him for threes. You're not going to go for him for creating his own shot in terms of step backs and such, but something to look for with just final point with Collin Sexton is that when he comes back from his injury, because what we've seen is a 3 to 4 month possible return, is easing him back into a role that might be a 6-man role where he could really benefit. He could really come off the bench and be that player that scores and be the 6-man for us. That I think will be something that we talk about in a later date. But yeah, this game got me fired up, and texting about it couldn't do it justice. So I had to show Jeff the clip, and that's what he was going on about.
Yeah, I mean, talk about Toronto. You're talking about a game you trailed by 15 points. You went down 8 in the fourth quarter, fought back, went down by 8 again in the fourth quarter. You did not have a lead in this game till the final 4 seconds. I mean, you want to talk about stealing a victory in hostile territory. That is the definition of it. 21 points, 8 assists for Darius Garland. He closed that game. He can certainly be the closer for this team. He has the capability. Does he have the confidence? It certainly is coming along. I have seen a much more animated Darius Garland this season. I think you guys would agree in that. But the big number, and you know what? Coach Flannery from St. Ed's will tell you the same thing. 16 of 19 at the line. 16 of 19 at the free throw line. Needed every single one of those 16. And that's the reason you stay after practice. That's the reason you do them when you're tired. I sound like a color analyst now on TNT. But, I mean, that really is such an aspect of this game that we don't talk about enough, because we have not shot free throws all that well. In a couple of games, though, and they're the games that we've won by a few points, we have shot well. And once again, did not fold. Came out of Toronto with a big-time win, a signature win, certainly, against a team that was playing pretty well. When did OG Anunoby start playing like Kawhi Leonard, by the way? That's new to me. He's been tearing it up. He's been tearing it up this year, and he literally – I see moves that must have learned when Kawhi was there for that incredible season for Toronto. But back to the Cavs, I mean, just the kind of win you need. I mean, seriously, that is a place that is so tough to win. Any opponent goes into Toronto, you're expecting a battle, and you were able to eke out a win in the Final Four. It's pretty incredible.
So looking at this box score, because like I said, I was not watching live, but I was watching the ESPN play-by-play, and that was the first time all year where for sure that it mattered, and maybe just in general, where I saw, because it scrolls the lines like auto-populate play-by-play. Collin
Yeah.
Sexton, the next line, Collin Sexton, the next line, Collin Sexton, with like a minute left, and I was like, why
Let's
is
try
this
something else.
why is this happening now? And Justin was freaking out. But here's the last thing I'll say about the Raptors game, which is a good win. I think the defensive efficiency is good. Only giving up 101 points is very promising, specifically on the road. But the big red flag for me here is that we got out rebounded in this game, 44-39. Obviously, like these last three games, no marketing. But when you have two 7-footers, two guys who we're basically expecting to average double doubles through points and rebounds, you shouldn't be getting out rebounded. It's going to happen. The team is still young. I do think that we have a little bit of an offensive rebounding, issue right now. It's not the end of the world. But as Logan said, a good game to win. And now moving to the last game, the best game, the Sunday game, the Sunday matinee. I love when they call it the previews or you see on commercials, NBA, a Sunday matinee. And that's exactly what it was. 126 points put up by your Cleveland Cavaliers. That is a season high of 126. And once again, 109 points by the Knicks. We scored 37 in the fourth quarter, 33 in the third quarter. That is ridiculous. 70 points in the second half. The Cleveland Cavaliers have not done that in a long time that I could remember. Out 10 more assists, 31 assists to 21 assists over the Knicks. Believe it or not, they actually had 9 blocks, which is crazy. And they had more points in the paint. But all around, like we have talked about with the three-point shooting, 19 of 35 from three-point, 54.3%. Ricky Rubio leading the way, 8 of 9 from three-pointer. Justin, what was going on in this game? There were some points in the fourth where it was like Knicks bucket, Cavs bucket,
Yep.
Knicks bucket, Cavs
Yeah.
bucket. And I was like, I was standing up and running around. I loved watching this game.
It was a fun game. Obviously, you don't want that to happen too often where, we're going back and forth. You just prefer that, Ricky Rubio comes down the court, takes a step back three and drills it, and we get a stop on the other end. But phenomenal night from him. Obviously, a career night from him, but we can't let that overshadow that the rookie Evan Mobley, 26 points. My goodness, was he great in this game. Phenomenal. Again, Collin Sexton goes out in this game. We get the news about that. Rubio takes over, but man, oh man, did Evan Mobley just insert himself into this game. He took over, really just did so many things well, passed the ball really well. God, if he had gotten one more rebound, 26 and 10 would have been so nice. But this team, it's almost impossible to, even talk about because Ricky Rubio, but Evan Mobley, it was such a good game. It was so much fun. And I think that's all I've really got to say for this one. It's like outside of like every game that we've watched this year, that was fun. That was a lot of fun.
We went into Madison Square Garden against a very good Knicks team, out rebounded them 48-32. First of all, I don't know if we touched on that yet. Rubio, yes, 37, 8 of 9, fantastic. But what I'm going to talk about is Evan Mobley. And I don't care if people are tired of hearing about how good this guy is and our what is a conjoined effort trying to support this guy and getting rookie of the year.
Yeah.
The man had 26, 9, and 5. He was 11 of 15 from the field. He hit 2 massive triples in that fourth quarter when we were, backs against the wall every time the Knicks were making that run. He hit 2 big triples. But here's the thing. On this podcast, episode 1, we said his best game against Atlanta. Episode 2, he just had his best game against the Lakers. And episode 3, he just had his best game against the Knicks. The guy is getting better, and it's his rookie year right now. And I think that's what is really, really telling to me. And do you guys see that statistic about his shot contests? Yeah. After the Knicks game, the next closest guy in the NBA is 46 shot contests behind.
Yep.
I mean, that's absurd. He's doing things that aren't even showing up in the box score. He's incredibly effective. He went into the world's most famous arena where everyone's like, Their dream as a kid is to play in a Madison Square Garden at a Knicks game in front of that crowd. They want that. Mobley wanted that moment. He didn't even flinch. He put together a fantastic performance. This Cavaliers team was matching the Knicks in that fourth quarter, holding off the late runs. I think one of my goals was to play another complete 48 minutes. Like I said, against the Clippers game, I'd say it's probably the closest thing you're going to get to it right there. A battle in that first half. Cavs squeak away in the third quarter with the Rubio triples, and they closed out just how they should. I mean, that was a perfect game. Well coached by JB Bickerstaff. I give him a lot of credit as well. Cavaliers moved to 7-4 on that.
What's telling to me about Evan Mobley is that, which there was some overshadow due to Ricky Rubio having a career high, but that game in Madison Square Garden, I see that they win. I check the box score, and like you said, Logan, 26, 9, and 5, and he makes it look so easy. There's a couple of, he has his rookie moments. He does. I'm not saying he's an MVP candidate. None of us are saying that. But, he does, his footwork gets a little clunky sometimes. He does travel once in a while when he gets the ball. His hands aren't, 100%, of course, but shooting the ball and playing in the post, and when he's on, it looks effortless. It looks like he's barely even exerting any effort out there, which is awesome to see. And his production is not even, his opportunities, only 15 shots in that game, super efficient from the field. So I'm going to start with my final thoughts. I'll make it quick, and then we're going to go Justin and then Logan. Then we're going to get on out of here. Your Cleveland Cavalier wins against the Hawks, playoff team from last year, against the Nuggets, playoff team from last year, against the Clippers, a playoff team from last year, against the Trailblazers, a roster that's been a playoff team in prior years, and against the Knicks that were a playoff team last year. The Raptors had a bad year last year, but they were a playoff team 2 years ago. Your next two games at home. These were all on the road, by the way, besides Portland. Portland was at home.
Talk about that.
These were all on the road against playoff teams. Your next two games are at home against Washington and are at home against Detroit. So my final thought is that if we drop one of these games, let's not freak out. If we come and lay a dud, I don't think it's going to happen, but if we come and lay a dud tomorrow against the Wizards, we're going to regress to the mean 3-point shooting. We're missing 3 or 4 starters, or we're going to miss 2 starters and then some of our bench pieces. So if we struggle at home against Washington and then against the Pistons on Friday, let's not start, let's not same old Cavs right away, because
I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, I don't want to hear it either. So I'm going to sling it over to Justin. Any final thoughts?
Man, a nice little 4-game home trip for us. I love to see that. Jeff, for some reason, scheduling this year in Cleveland sports has been really weird. I don't know how often it is in basketball that you get doubleheaders, but the Celtics twice before we come back on here at home.
I think they've been doing that because of flying. I think they implemented that with after the bubble and stuff, but it is weird.
Yeah, but like you said, not going to freak out if anything happens here. I mean, to be fair, we probably should have, if we were going to drop games, against the Wizards, if we're still missing Okoro and Markkanen and Love, and now Sexton, not going to freak out about that, obviously, but we've been playing some of our best ball with guys missing. My biggest thing is I hope we get healthy. I hope we start to get guys back before maybe that Pistons game, but definitely before the Celtics game. So I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to 4 more good games out of this Cavs team.
Guys, 4 wins in a row. You've won 7 of your last 9 games. Those numbers kind of speak for itself. You're playing a Washington team next who is 7-3 this year. They're actually playing some pretty good basketball. They have a really well-balanced team, believe it or not, despite losing a name like Russell Westbrook. They still have Bradley Beal. They brought in some good pieces from the Lakers. They're actually playing some pretty good basketball. Certainly no one expected it, but no one expected the Cavaliers to play well either. I think that's a pretty darn good matchup. I'm curious to see how we look fresh off an injury to Sexton, because you lost Sexton midway through that New York game, right? If you didn't have him at the beginning, we might have been looking at a different result. Let's be honest. But you're going to start fresh, still down some key pieces. You're also potentially bringing back Okoro from what we're hearing, which could have his adjustments as well. I'm not going to read into as much probably this next week of basketball for the Cavaliers. I'm going to kind of just watch from a fan's perspective, just an NBA's fan perspective, and kind of watch it that way. if they go 2-2 in these next 4, that's fine by me. I would be a little disappointed with 1 and 3, but as long as we're competing each game, we're going to drop a dud or two, like you said, Jeff. Those are the kind of things that, hey, it happens in sports. Like people think it's the end of the world anytime a team loses a game and doesn't play well. It just simply happens. Sometimes the ball doesn't go into the net. Yeah. I'm excited for these next 4 games for the Cavaliers. I'm excited to talk about it with you guys some more. Excited to see how Mobley continues to improve and how Garland leads this shorthanded Cavalier team with, I shouldn't even leave him out, Jared Allen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So guys, we're your Tuesday show. Every Tuesday of the NBA season, we're going to be here. We're going to be bringing you content. Watch the games and come check us out. Leave a comment. Don't watch the games. If you're not watching the Cavs games, I really don't blame you for the past couple of years, but we're 7-4. It's time to start trying
Give them
to
a
catch,
chance.
It's time to start to try to catch some of these games. You won't be disappointed. It's fun basketball atmosphere. Even on the road, it's fun. I think the crowd has been great when we've been on the roads, the road games, in this stretch of playing on the road. So, like I said, come give us your thoughts down below. Make sure that you comment, what do you like hearing from us? What do you not like? Give us suggestions. How should we make these episodes a little bit different? And with that being said, we'll catch you guys next Tuesday. Peace.